بسم الله الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء وهو السميع العليم. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: من قام رمضان إيمانا واحتسابا غفر له ما تقدم من ذنبه. وقال صلى الله عليه وسلم: من صام رمضان إيمانا واحتسابا غفر له ما تقدم من ذنبه. That whoever fasts with faith, with iman and sincerity, with ihtisaban, that his sins, his past sins will be forgiven and his future sins will be forgiven. And the same applies to someone who stands in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and does more ibadah and does more remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and makes more dua and pushes himself, that his sins will also, his or her sins will also be forgiven, his past and future sins. And many people, especially in these days of Ramadan, it's unfortunate that many people sometimes they don't have hope. They don't have hope and they feel like salvation isn't really there. When they make dua, it isn't really that, it isn't a dua of substance, it isn't a dua that's full of life and intent. People just go after the actions of it. And there are many reasons for this. It could be trauma, it could be depression. We have a lot of that going around. It could be people who are unsatisfied with their life. It could be people who are unhappy with the way things are in their communities or even in their households. And a man came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and asked him, how do I find salvation? Tell me, how do I find salvation? How do I find comfort again? How do I find myself? And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam replied to that man and said that imsik ala lisanik waliyas'aka baytik wabki ala khati'atik. Hold your tongue, mind your tongue, and mind your own business, meaning mind your house, mind your own business, and weep or cry over your sins. Weep and cry over the things that you know is bringing sorrow for you. It's okay to cry, it's okay to feel bad, but at the end of the day, and it's okay for us to know we have sins and have shortcomings and have flaws. We all have flaws, and I remind myself first and foremost. And don't feel bad about your flaws. But you should feel bad about your flaws if you're not taking steps to improve those flaws for the next Ramadan and the Ramadan after that, bi'ithnillahi ta'ala. Many people, they want to give up. And I know sometimes it seems like giving up is the only thing we can do. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us and reminds us that these days of Ramadan, especially these last 10 nights and 10 days of Ramadan, are full of barakah and full of wisdom, spiritual wisdom, and how we should live our life. We should live our life, but with the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on our tongues. If you know that you have a problem praying, but you're at least taking steps so that if you're praying only some of your salah now, maybe inshallah next Ramadan, you'll be better than that. And you'll be praying even more. And then the next Ramadan, you'll be even better and better. Many people, they want to become salihin and muttaqeen overnight. And it's not really that possible. But a true salih, a true muttaqi, is someone who they strive and they strive and they strive. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that you're not perfect. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows you're going through stuff. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what's in your heart, whether it be darkness or light. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can show you the way. So keep striving is what I'm saying. Keep striving and keep trying. If you know you're only praying 3 salah a day, inshallah next Ramadan, you'll be someone who prays at least 4 salah a day until you reach 5 salah. Take it one step at a time, bi'ithnillahi ta'ala. And inshallah, we'll all come out of this Ramadan, not as losers, but as winners. The great scholar, Imam Ibn al-Jawzi said, rahimahullah, he said that a racehorse knows when he's nearing the end of the race. So don't let the racehorse be more clever than you. And obviously, As human beings, we're the greatest creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because we have choice. We have freedom of will. So obviously our racehorse is not going to beat us. We know that we're nearing the end of this race for this Ramadan. So we need to speed up. How do we speed up? With more dhikr. With more dhikr and with more ibadah. And dhikr can come in many forms. Reading the Quran. And if you don't know how to read the Quran, then read the English of the Quran. Making dua. And if you can't speak Arabic or don't know any Arabic du'as, then that's fine. But make your dua in English then. Make your dua and be sincere about it. Cry to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَبَكِي عَلَى خَطِيعَتِكَ. Cry over your sins. And you will seek salvation bi'ithnillahi ta'ala. Because Allah, so that's something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala appreciates. That you're crying to Him. My slave, my servant is crying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In these last few remaining days of Ramadan, I remind myself first and foremost, obviously, and I remind anyone else who is watching this video, to speed up in your ibadah, speed up in your dhikr. Remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your tongue and also with your words and with your actions. مَنْ أَعْرَضَ عَنْ ذِكْرِي فَإِنَّ لَهُ مَعِيشَةٌ تُنْكَى. Whoever does not remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and has no semblance of a remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then he'll live a miserable life. He'll live a life full of sorrow and sadness. So if you're going through sorrow and sadness, I'm sorry for you. But know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is even more sorry for you. And He's waiting for you to cry to Him and to pertain to Him and to supplicate to Him. So may we all take advantage of this last few remaining precious days and nights of Ramadan, and inshallah will come out even better than a racehorse. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We would like to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for granting us this great blessing of allowing us to reach the last 10 nights of Ramadan once again and to seek out Laylatul Qadr, the most virtuous and blessed night of the year. As He subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, Laylatul Qadri khayrun min alfi shahr, that Laylatul Qadr is better than 1,000 months. One of the actions that most people like to fill Laylatul Qadr with and to fill these last 10 nights with, especially because they're up during the last part of the night, and especially because of the virtue of this night, is that they like to fill it with dua. And a lot of people sometimes, they don't know how to make dua, or they're making dua and they say, it's not getting accepted, or they're making dua and they're only saying words and they don't know what they're saying, right? So I would like to direct myself first and foremost and everyone else to the way that the prophets made dua, the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us that His prophets made dua, and the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He answered those duas. So for example, at the beginning of Surah Maryam, when Zakaria is asking Allah for a child, he's explaining the situation, right? He's saying, oh Allah, I've become old, my bones are weak, my hair is gray, my wife is sick or barren, and I've never ever been sad when I made dua to you, oh Allah. And I need an inheritor to carry on the way of Yaqub, and I fear for the people after me. And he's making dua and he's pleading with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah accepts his dua, right? Something that is like impossible to happen, but he's still making dua for it. He's asking Allah for it, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He answers the dua. He grants him a son. He grants him Yahya alayhi salatu wassalam, even though it was something that was inconceivable. But he still made dua for it, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala still granted it to him. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, he narrates that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, Udu'u Allah wa antum muqinuna bil ijaba. Make dua when you're sure that it will be accepted. So have in your heart and really believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with certainty will accept your dua. And he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he says, وَعْلَمُوا أَنَّهُ لَا يُسْتَجِيبُ دُعَاء min qalbin ghafil, that Allah doesn't accept the dua of a qalb, of a heart that is not paying attention, or a heart that is turned away, or a heart that isn't there at the time. And he sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he says that any dua that you make will be answered as long as you don't rush it. What is rushing it, Ya Rasulullah? And he sallallahu alayhi wasallam said to say that da'awt, that I made dua and it wasn't answered, and that led him to leaving off dua. So I urge everybody to make as much dua as possible, to make dua properly, to understand what you're saying, to call out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He is the one, Al-Qarib Al-Mujib, the close, the one who answers all dua. As He said in Surah Al-Baqarah, in the middle of the ayat regarding Ramadan and Sawm, He says, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ, that I'm close. If my slaves ask about me, then I'm close. أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ, and I answer the supplication of those who call upon me. فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ. So seek an answer from me and believe in me, that they may be rightfully guided. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept all of our good deeds in these nights, and to allow us to seek out and find Laylatul Qadr, and accept everything that we've done this month. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.